Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you're currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Refracted Curvature, Neil, Adam, Eli, Brian's Logic, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Greetings, everyone.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Hello.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Hello.
Very well. I like to summarise what we've been chatting about in the pre-show for the live audience, just in case we tail off what we've been discussing. Obviously, members who've been watching this pre-recorded after the live show ends later on today, this won't make any sense because you've just listened to the whole conversation. But we're talking about how, in a kind of humorous video that John, that's Refracted Curvature, has released, he's showing how he can derive a spherical radius by way of angle measurement to what he's going to call celestial bodies in his kitchen. That would be a kitchen light and fan. And therefore derive just under 50 feet of circumferential value, I believe was what we got to at the end. So obviously he's deriving radii for a flat surface, which is precisely how the globe is made. And it's something we've been talking about quite a lot at the moment because I see it as a massive shift in terms of our argumentation. Because up until now, we've had the position where you can argue back and forth, and there's a debate about how logical consistency argument is framed, whether or not it takes into consideration other factors that haven't been allegedly taken into consideration when a debunking of the claim in the first instance comes in the form of, say, refraction. In this instance, it's very different. Both parties require a flat plane to measure elevation angles, therefore both parties require to start their process of measurement and, in the case of globe Earth, calculations to derive spherical values. We all need it to be flat first, and any preconceived notions of sphericity will be corrected flat to make measurements. So we've got to agree on both sides of the globe Earth / flat Earth argument, which is to say it must be measured flat. There is no two ways about that. The elevation angle measurement proves that. And we're talking now in farcical terms about how you can literally take that process, which has been used by way of the flat plane we actually live on, to make a spherical surface by way of angle measurements to Polaris, and do the same thing to make your kitchen spherical. Just so, if that joke continues, it's not an in-joke. We are all in the know on the live stream and in the audience. So, welcome to all of you in the live stream audience. You're now up to date. Should we continue with that conversation, gentlemen of G+, or and indeed Citation Police in Discord?
I've put the video in the YouTube chat for anyone who wants to.
So Adam spammed the link, which has got Zippy or a hippo-style unicorn-looking teddy bear with a funny voice by one of our panel regulars, and that's John, and that link is going by now. So check it out, and you'll see exactly what's being done in terms of those maths to come up with less than 50 feet. Did you say it was 530.3 or whatever it was, radius or circumference? I forget which now.
No. John's kitchen equator is 530.3 inches.
That's what I thought. Yeah, so he's got a ball that's just under 50 feet. Maybe a foot shy.
Yeah,
that's John's house.
That's the equator of John's house, yeah. And then he worked out his R value.
Yeah, my radius is 87.5 inches.
So there you have it. But obviously, in order to derive
more.
this joke, he needed a flat surface to work upon to measure angles with a protractor, right, John?
Yeah, and there's more because I had a geometric horizon in the house as well. I call it my wall. It physically obstructs things when you walk behind it.
It is actually a wall, and it definitely does obstruct things, and you have dubbed it the geometric horizon wall of your 50 feet in circumference ball earth that is your house.
Yes, so it has more validity than the heliocentric model at this point.
Indeed, but the maths that are used to get there are the same, so they offer the same validity. Let's not push your luck.
I still have a geometric horizon, they don't.
But the assertions used to get there are the same. That's the point of this discussion, right? You can take the lights in the sky, derive angle measurements off a flat plane to them, and then give yourself a little sphere Earth radius value. Doesn't mean you stood on a sphere, it just means that you've taken flat Earth measurements and then indulge your little fantasy that you've decided to indulge. Same with your house. It's not really a ball. Same with Earth. Not really a ball. You need flat plane measurements in order to make any assertions that it might be a ball. Obviously, you know, when you get back to the source of those original claims and the measurements that were used to make them, they were done off a flat plane.
Well, that's why I did it like a children's video, because the people that are still arguing against this are on that like level of intelligence, I think. So I just thought I'd get down to their level and communicate.
Oh, I didn't see it as empathic. I thought it was that you can take the piss out of them as a result, because obviously by extension, if you want to assert that the way you can derive flat Earth measurements to give you spherical radii, in this case ball Earth radius, you must then adhere to your version of the exact same methodology when deriving a spherical house radius. Correct? Mr. Fundy? I thought that was your positioning. Well, if you accept it, the ball can give you a radius value off a flat Earth measurement, then you must accept my house has got a radius.
I'm just too deadpan with my humor.
We've proved how curved John's house is. It's an accepted methodology that we followed and duplicated in John's house to work out, because he was having issues getting around the kitchen, wobbling this way, that, the other. So we needed to figure out the rate of curvature so we could accommodate for it. I think tonight we should figure out whether it's rotating, John, or not.
It's already done with the fan.
Well, yep, the fans are moving, or they appear to be moving. So we have to work under the assumption either the fans are moving or the ground is.
That's what I mean.
If I
hold on, that says only reasonable. You see something moving, and John corrected himself immediately. It's apparently moving. I mean, it's not like he can jump up and touch it and slice open his thumb and then bleed all over the instructions that he's reading off or anything. But, you know, it's not tangible at this point. Obviously, we all accept it's not a tangible fan. Now, shut up. Carry on, John.
It could be the room that's moving, John.
Shh. It could be... sorry, I cut him off too quick. I assumed you'd be... Yes, that's right, Neil. Apparent movement of the fan. Feel free to continue, John, with your apparent fan movement.
Well, what we'll do is assume that there is a non-inertial reference frame, and we'll measure motion within the room, and if there's any deviation from straight, then we'll have proven that the ground is moving.
I'm pretty sure with the use of a pendulum I could get that effect to be induced with enough time, dropping the pendulum in a given direction. I'm sure we could show that the ground that the pendulum is attached to, but freely swinging through in a different reference frame. It's only reasonable to assume that the pendulum which swings in its back and forth reference frame, when I show it to drift beyond that parameter, that could only be literally assumed to be a second reference frame. That would be your Earth house turning beneath the pendulum that I've set in motion, right? It's only reasonable to assume a second reference frame. Do you want to try and prove there isn't a second reference frame to John's house? Anybody in the audience?
Well, even further to that, where the globe Earth doesn't account for deviation of objects, and they claim globiolus, I can actually, underneath my ceiling fan, show that a balloon that is tied down will wobble back and forth without any pressure applied to by me.
Not taking into account conservation of fan momentum, which is to say that the entire structure of your globe house moves in lockstep with that rotation of the fan, so there wouldn't be any necessary deviation to see within the structure of the deviation I'm now claiming is a second reference frame. We'll see that second reference frame is not going to demonstrate any effect to prove we've got a second reference frame. In fact, we wouldn't expect to. Why would you expect me to have a demonstrable effect from the second reference frame I've just claimed? I mean, what is this? Stupid idiot. So we're all clear. John's house is rotating and spherical. Glad we cleared that up with globe earth math and methodology.
Well, I'm beginning to think that my house has a molten iron core.
I'm almost certain of it.
I'm going to prove that.
This is better than housekeeping. Let's keep this up.
Well, do you think that do you have heated floor panels, or how do you know it's not that instead?
Well, there's electricity coming into my house somehow, and I don't know how. So the only thing I can assume is there's an electrical, a magnetic field being built up somewhere, and since I can't see it, it has to be under my house. That's spherical.
What you do is you bang the floorboards and put your ear next to it, and the primary return signal, we'll call that a P wave, yeah, and the secondary return signal, we'll call that an S wave. Will tell you all you need to know about what's beneath you, and from that P wave and S wave data, you can definitely extrapolate out that you've got a molten iron core at the centre of your presupposed spherical house. It seems only reasonable, given that I've got an entire backstory ready to be invented in my head in the interim period of the next silence, to go along with this just-so story of the molten iron core at the centre of the presupposed Earth maths-derived spherical house that you live in, with its rotation and not actual reference frames that can and both cannot demonstrate an effect, obviously.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and test that. If you'll listen in, you'll be able to hear the primary wave. Did you hear the secondary wave as well?
Different angle that came back at the secondary wave. Did you notice?
So the timings are off, just like a spherical surface would be.
That angle, let's just be clear, Adam, we've already established that it's a spherical house. So we will most definitely incorporate the radius value of John's spherical house when we're measuring the return angle of the P wave or the secondary wave. Okay, Adam, it will include the R. Let's just be clear.
Thank God. I was going to have to take you to task there. We should be able to figure out with the differentials between the P and S. There's some real good quality detail as to the centre of John's kitchen. Could all be wrong, of course, and then we'll just move on and carry on as if it was correct as before. But
you mean to say if he does a little bit of drilling and doesn't find the molten iron core at the centre of his presupposed spherical house, we can ignore those core drilling measurements? We'll call them core drilling. Obviously, by scale, he's just using 1/8 of an inch of a 5-inch drill bit.
Yeah, but by comparison, that's equivalent, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if it turned out those figures were wrong, we would just ignore that and carry on anyway and continue to state that it's definitely a molten iron core at the centre of John's kitchen.
Well, he only needs
Correct, Adam.
He only really needs to investigate the floorboards, let's be honest. By scale, that's reasonable.
Well, that's right, because we're just getting into the mantle of my kitchen floor.
Exactly.
But as Adam points out, just because the measurement is wrong does not invalidate the measurement.
Absolutely not.
Well, this is going to throw you all right off. So, given your demonstration in the pre-show, and hopefully anybody who's left and come back again that's watched it, you took an angle measurement to your apparent rotating ceiling fan. Could you get a height from that, though?
You know what I thought the most ingenious thing was how John mitigated for dip angle. Got his eye right down there with that bit of string and protractor. So he didn't even have to, he made his own horizon, didn't he? Artificial horizon. Absolutely fantastic. So no need, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, no need for correction of dip.
Genius.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. I'm glad you noticed that. That's why I put the level next to the protractor.
John's pretty level-headed.
John, you mean the panda narwhal unicorn thing?
Well, now, just so you know, the altitude is considered infinite but the altitude angle is not because you're on a curved surface.
I understand. Thank you for clarifying that. So once we've got this measurement from the flat plane, we are now going to justify and apologise for the spherical corrections that are required thereafter, because obviously now that we've measured it flat and derived a curved radius, it is automatically assumed to be that. Unless anything is involved that might cause any danger, then we'll revert back to the original flat plane measurements and just declare that their flat plane measurements and use don't negate the fact the house is still a sphere, and here's a little diagram to go and prove it.
Well, I just want
Nathan, hold on. Nobody is claiming the ground underneath my ceiling fans is curved.
No, in spite of the fact that that is precisely what we're claiming with these measurements and derivations off a flat plane to give you a spherical radius. Nobody's claiming the measurements from under the fan are curved. Why would they be? We need them to be flat to derive this bloody spherical house that we're talking about. Obviously, nobody's claiming it's actually curved. But yeah, in principle, we are actually claiming the entire thing's curved. Yes, that's correct, John. Beautifully double-spoken.
Yes. Yes.
Actually, John, that was really fantastic comeback.
It's fully validated with the maths, and he gives an exact figure for his kitchen's R value. So I don't see why there's any doubt. I mean, there might be decimal differences. He might be out by a small amount, and I think there might have been a higher level of refraction in his kitchen that day, so there might be a slight variance. But I think he's within 2%. I'd say
is within 2% of the immeasurable sphericity of his house,
Yeah.
because the maths would dictate that it was going to be that, and he's measured it, and therefore it's going to be within 2% of a figure that doesn't really exist and isn't really plausibly provable without having flat plane measurements to go along with it. I think 2% is actually a bit unfair. Within 0.5%, I would have said.
What refraction is he using?
Well, obviously, we've got this new John spherical house refraction. It's 7/6 of John's house radius.
if it wasn't, then it wouldn't appear to look locally flat. You see, Brian.
Hold on, I've got some pictures of a sugar tank full of water, Brian. That'll help you understand that 7/6 of the radius of John's house is what we're talking about right now.
So he's dedicated his time. He's taking his fish out of his fish tank and put some sugar water in there, huh?
Well, gentlemen, hold on. Before we get too far into this, I think we really need to move into the physics of how my house is a sphere and the controlling force that's causing it.
Is it gravity?
I was thinking about that name, possibly. Yes.
I think that's, it's only a reasonable assumption that we have a fourth dimensional space-time bending and a separate geometry, which has nothing to do with the physicality of your house in reality, that we can use to describe the gravitational accretion of the lights that we're going to call ceiling fan and kitchen light. Obviously they came to be in some form.
Maybe we don't have to be that bold. Maybe we could say it's an.
This is a rare.
We don't have to be so bold. What?
No, we don't have to be so bold and decisive and define what this. What do you say you're going to call it? Gravity is. We could just say it emerges from gravity. What's holding the kitchen? Not necessarily define what the force is, but just say it emerges from what the force is.
And we don't have to. We don't have to. This is a rare occasion. We're not going to be using any of this new hokey pokey math. We're going to go to the fundamentals, the basics. We're going to go back to that Newtonian.
Hey, to throw salt on the wound. To throw salt on the wound. I just shared John's video with Gem Panda.
I think Eli's got a point. If we use something that's solid, robust, well understood, and 106 years out of date, and superseded by other things, that would be a great proof.
Hold on, we just need to explain to the audience why we need this. So currently, there's obviously a slight problem that on a circumferential value of just under 50 feet, the house has a garage and the car inside the garage is technically 90 degrees to where John is standing in terms of how it positions itself on the sphere that is John's house. Now, I appreciate that his garage is no different to your garage. But in the maths that we're talking about, his garage, yeah, that is actually 90 degrees to his position, and his basement is technically upside down underneath antipodal from where he's standing. Now, obviously, all of this needs explaining mathematically. So, because the actual presentation of his basement is just beneath him rather than antipodal, and his garage doesn't have a car stuck on the side of the house 90 degrees to his position, but in the maths it does. So that's why I think it's not unfair or, you know, unreasonable to move into the pseudo-Riemannian four-space geometry of Einstein in order to describe the bending conceptual medium that definitely does have his car 90 degrees to his position. It's all relative, but obviously there isn't really a force holding the car 90 degrees to his position, because it isn't. But it is in bending pseudo-Riemannian four-space-time geometry. So I think we should stick with that,
Nathan,
not to decry your, you know, or override your wise sage judgment in this regard, Adam.
Obviously,
I see your point, but since I see your point, but since I don't understand pseudo-Riemannian force space, I'll just claim that the rest of the house is part of the solar system of my house, and the kitchen's radius is separate from that.
Well, obviously, you don't understand special housativity.
What don't we understand?
Special housativity.
Okay. We don't. But just because you don't understand it, John, doesn't mean that we aren't deeply concerned with the paradoxical nature of bending pseudo-force space and the description of your car being sideways to your position. You know, if you are, however, suggesting that the fan and sun are technically separate astral bodies vastly larger than we might first anticipate, then that might work.
Well, I'm willing to accept that. I tell you what, why don't I take and argue against the my house people with my position, and then you can hold your position in the intellectual circles.
Well, I was going to do that for you by saying many of these anti-flat earthers, and indeed flat earthers, just cannot explain why your car would be 90 degrees to your position, or your garage is antipodal and you're upside down when you're in it. You know, many of these people can't even explain. They haven't even got a model for that, have they, John?
No, they do not.
That's correct. They don't even have a model for it. Right? Meanwhile, listen to us, get us, right? We are describing, with bending pseudo-Riemannian four-space-time geometry, how John's house is spherical with a garage 90 degrees to his position. What have you ever done with your no model? Yeah? Pathetic.
And he measured it. He measured it with string as well.
I think you just
real world.
You just created a whole new group. I think you just created a whole new group, anti-flat kitchens.
You funding.
Well, the anti-flat kitcheners are why I need to maintain the 106-year out-of-date kitchen gravity.
Well, you can give a Coriolis effect with a lazy Susan. So
nice. But he used his fan.
Is it granite tops or gravity tops?
Granite types.
Very good. Did we cover most of the housekeeping? I believe we did. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields?
No.
What do you mean, no?
No, I've got slides I want to show you.
We've not covered how John's house keeps its air pressure.
You have to hold that. He's managed to weasel this back into the narrative. You can't decry that now, can you, 10th?
That was good. That
was good. I agree. I'll relinquish my imagination land to someone else in this regard, Adam, because I've no idea. Obviously, I'm not clued up enough in terms of refracted curvature logic in this regard.
So,
well, I can go ahead and answer this. As far as the heliocentric model goes, they assert that you can have gas pressure without a container, which is utter nonsense. I have a roof to contain it.
There you go.
Adam, do we have a zenith distance in that house?
You'll notice if you look at the setup that John actually used his zenith mirror to generate his angle for his other one, but he used the zenith mirror on that.
I have something to present there in a few minutes. Okay.
Okay, there are no zenith mirrors.
Brian. Well, so do I. So do I.
Okay.
I was actually afraid of this happening. Like, there's actually good information that's wanting to get presented, and we're goofing off on.
This is good information.
Oh, this is good information.
This is running exactly parallel with Glober logic. Every Glober that's told us about Eratosthenes' way of calculating the circumference, what have you, this is running exactly parallel to that. So as ridiculous as it may be, well, ballers, there you go.
So all in favour of continuing to goof off, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
There's a serious point being raised in chat, and I think John should address it. How's he coping with the Kitchenwinian paradox that's occurring with his explanation?
Didn't we cover that with 7/6 of John's sphere house radius? Don't we just part refraction at that?
No, I actually have a physical horizon. It's called my wall, and actually does physically obstruct things at a geometric rate. So
you're right, you did cover it.
John, do you have a dog? Do you have a dog, John?
Yes, I do.
Well, I want to know how you, within your model, you deal with bark matter.
It's only there when you don't see it.
That's good. That was good. That was good, Brian. I don't know why nobody else laughed.
Yeah, well, lead balloon. The balloon.
It's the Irish accent. We all assumed he was trying to swindle a man out of his dog.
I peed myself a little bit laughing at it, though.
All right. I got some slides of Master B before Brian goes.
Okay.
I'm only going to be a second.
Okay, you go first. You go first.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
Brian then 10th. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, thank you. This is going to be very quick. Hopefully I can just zoom in here. Right. Hopefully you can see that zoomed in. I don't know if it's zoomed in for you. But the angular resolution limit of the human eye, about 1 arc minute. The human eye has an angular resolution of about 1 arc minute, 0.02 degrees or 0.0003 radians, okay? So I think it's 0.022 or something like that. Angular size calculator. I'll try and zoom in here. Hopefully, I don't know if it's zooming for you. It's probably not zooming for you, but angular size calculator at 27 nautical miles, right, of a size, right, which would be. I'm just pre-assuming. This is just speculation. Polaris, whatever Polaris is, from the lower limb of Polaris to the horizon. If that was 27 nautical miles, just saying, this is just for speculation, right? Then at a distance of 5,400 nautical miles away from that, and as you know, we're doing angular size, so it's right angles. You would have the angular size of it would be of that angular free space between the lower limb of Polaris and the horizon would be 0.28648. So if Polaris was an apparent height of 27 nautical miles in the sky, then at 5,400 nautical miles distance, that angular free space between the bottom of Polaris and the horizon would be angular free space between the bottom of Polaris and the horizon would be 0.28648 degrees. So, I mean, it's such a simple thing. The bowler has spent 7 years not being able to do that. That's it. That's all I wanted to present. Do you understand what I mean by that? What this means?
No.
Well,
I took a phone call, Bryce, so I missed it. So maybe recap for everyone.
Well, basically what it means is that if Polaris was 27 nautical miles high, right, whatever Polaris is, if Polaris, let's say, not so much Polaris, but the bottom of Polaris and the horizon, if that was a 27 nautical mile distance, then if that was, let's say, 27 nautical miles above your head, right, when you're at Polaris is 90, then as you move away from it, 5,400 nautical miles, which would be the distance from the GP of Polaris to the equator line, then that angular free space between the bottom of Polaris and the horizon will be only 0.28648 degrees, which would be reaching the human eye's angular resolution limit, which means it's not dropping in the sky due to you going backward over a curve. It can drop in the sky due to angular size change of that angular free space between the base of Polaris and the horizon. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to put out there. Doesn't mean that it is 27. I'm just showing that at 27 nautical miles, that free space, angular free space, can become 0.26848 degrees at 5,400 nautical miles.
Bam. 10th?
Yes. Do you see the slides? Which one do you have first? Yeah, you can. There's one that you got to hit to download that shows.
Why are you doing that? Just pick Bright. Why 27, Bright? I know it resolves to 9, but just random or
Downloaded image up first if that's what you want. But go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, go, Brian.
Go, Brian. Go.
Brian went bye-bye.
Okay. Well, did you want the downloaded image first?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I got too close to the mic there. Yeah, let's go there. So this is what they're saying is happening. You can see a right angle from the center of a presupposed Earth, and it's always subtracting from 90. And you could see the elevation angle, and you could see the zenith distance to complement. Everybody tracking with that? Yes?
Just put it up big for the audience. But yes.
Got it.
All right, just let that sink in for a minute. Then you could, so this is what they're saying is happening. Now let's go to the next slide, please.
Okay, is this the one with the scribble of a guy?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So there's an angle of elevation and angle of depression. We're going to see several slides here, and this is no different than the zenith distance being described to us that works on a flat plane, because obviously you can't get an elevation angle with a curved adjacent. And the complement is the zenith distance, which is the angle of depression here. So here's the sun, B, and here's a scribbled person with a section, let's say, and he's at C, and he needs the right angle to get this angle of elevation. Well, the complement angle would be the zenith distance of the sun's GP to the person's GP. Next slide. So angle of depression and angle of elevation are equal in this. So what do you need to have an angle of elevation? You need a baseline, horizontal line, level. What do you need to have an angle of depression? The same baseline, but in the air.
Yep.
You need a reference. It needs to be relative to something. So here's a plane, say at 30,000 feet. And in order for that angle of depression for the plane, it needs to be a right angle as well. Next slide. Again, showing in this illustration a line of sight, which is the elevation angle, and then the complement angle would be the angle of depression, or in sextant jargon, the complement or the zenith distance. You need a flat line up there, another right angle. Next slide. You're at war. There's a submarine coming at you. You want to find out where it's at. You have to treat the surface of the ocean horizontal, flat, level. You need a right angle. Target that sub. Next slide. You see the hot air balloon. You see the horizontal baseline needed for the observer to get the angle of elevation. Well, if the observer was in the hot air balloon, they need a horizontal line to get the angle of depression. And in Sexton jargon, that would be zenith distance for the person on the ground. Next slide. Elevation and depression angles. Elevation is the angle up from the horizontal. Depression is the angle down from the horizontal. Pretend the guy is the sun or a star or a moon. It's easily the same thing. You need straight lines to get angles. Next slide. This is a kind of a weird image because it's not coming in clear, but you got a jet fighter targeting a ship. Same thing applies here. Next slide. Here's a theodolite with a plumb bob needing to get a horizontal, and getting the angle of elevation is based on achieving a horizontal flat baseline. That's why you do dip correction when you use the natural horizon and you don't with a bubble Sexton or artificial horizon, because you already have established the horizontal with those two methods. But the complement would be the zenith angle. Now we just saw, in order for the zenith angle to work, it needs a horizontal as well, but in the sky. Next and last slide. Azimuth and altitude for northern latitudes. You can see here the equatorial plane, flat baseline, a circle. There's your horizontal. And then you get your angle. And then you see where it says altitude. Well, so that's your elevation angle. And then you see where it says vertical and zenith. Well, that's your complement. So your zenith distance would be gotten from that, the remainder. So that vertical, you have to draw a straight line to the sun. That has to be a horizontal all the way to the sun for that angle to even be there, as we saw in the previous slides. This curved meridian is a joke. It can't be curved. It needs to be horizontal for a zenith distance. Any questions?
No.
So they throw the lie right at the end?
No, all of that's true, and therefore my house is a sphere.
Yeah, if you extrapolate out how they've back-engineered it, the farce continues 10th. But good presentation.
Thanks.
I just want to ask, like, that I don't really understand what I meant when I showed my thing there a few minutes ago.
Yes.
Do you realise the relevance of that to what we're talking about now?
What, in terms of the exclusion of perspective?
Well, yeah. I mean, like, all it took for those 8 years, because I mean, technically it's 8 years the argument is going on now, or the re-emergence of the argument. 8 years. We're hearing Polaris, blah, blah, blah. Polaris challenge, blah, blah, blah. People like stupid idiots like Sean Hawkins, who doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. People who don't know where the radius came from. That shows that at 27 nautical miles, that space between the horizon and Polaris, that angular free space, 27 nautical miles, that when you move 5,400 nautical miles away from that in a straight line, that the angle to will be basically between that space between the bottom of Polaris and the horizon would be so small it'd be reaching the angular resolution limit.
I think all your bit, Tim's bit, and John's bit all go to show that if we're gonna, and as Nathan says, if we exclude perspective and we look at lights in the sky and attribute certain functions of the surface to the change in position of those lights, then we can prove that John's kitchen is a sphere.
Yeah, or we can show with angular size change that due to perspective, that light in the sky will drop and meet the horizon exactly where it always does across a flat plane.
Well,
go on.
I was just going to say, as a serious question, do you think after this argument, after this fact's been brought out, do you think they'll have this Polaris challenge brought up anymore? Or will it be like anything else, they just forget about it in a couple of weeks?
Well, they won't understand, but they don't understand what we're talking about, because Sean Hawkins has already seen the video I brought out a week before last day or whatever. He already saw that there, and he doesn't understand it. Like just using him, because he keeps on pushing this Polaris challenge nonsense, and he's been pushing it more than any of them for a few years. But they're all pushing it, but none of them seem to understand it. It's like you can't. What we're stating is a fact. Their whole globe model is built on elevation angles to Polaris. And elevation angles to Polaris are right angle distances. Or right angle, sorry, with baseline horizontal distances. You know, they don't understand it. They haven't got, they're so far behind us, it's unbelievable.
That's true. That's
true.
They're
still expecting us to refer to curve calculators.
There is no challenge, because all we have to say is, how'd you get that angle?
Exactly. But Brian's right. They're so far behind.
Yeah, we've left them behind in this argument ridiculously. They are still referring to curve calculators and looking at photographs and stating that that refracted horizons are blocking, that come from geometric horizons. The fact that the geometric horizon was only ever in the maths says it all. That should say it all to you, if you were a globe believer. But the fact that you need elevation angles to get the angle to Polaris as you move away. The elevation angle to Polaris from 5,400 nautical miles away is just about zero. Do you know what I mean?
Sounds like they're about 18 months behind us.
Yeah.
It's about right.
Well, how old is the Black Swan? Because they're at least that far behind us.
That's what I'm saying. It's 2 years, isn't it? 2020. So it's like 26 months. So, yeah, they're about 18 months, because their response from what Brian's saying is mid-2000s response to the Black Swan, when we were saying none of them get that. Now you're saying, well, they get it because they're talking about the refracted non-geometric horizon. Give it another 6 months and they'll realise that that actually means they've debunked their own model. Give it another 6 months and they might start cottoning on to the fact that we're talking about measuring angle measurements to things like Polaris, and those elevation angle measurements proving a flat plane. So yeah, give it another 18 months, sort of part way through 2023, they'll start converting to flat Earth, Brian. Because what other option will they have?
Yeah, because I'm telling you what other option. They just ignore everything and they talk about rockets in space now.
Maybe that's what... Point on. I was going to say, maybe, you know, a little bit of me, you know, it was a little bit of, I guess, malice. But, you know, maybe they just need to be made fun of continuously and constantly now. If they're refusing to get a fact that they're using as a fact within their own model, then all you can do is make fun of them.
What's in it for me? What's in it for me?
Laughter.
Okay, I don't. While it might appear that way by people who create this image of me being a monster, I don't have any sedition inside me. I don't take pleasure from watching other people in pain.
Well, I don't either. But I mean, at some point, you know, if you're going to argue nonsense, it just seems only reasonable that people should laugh at you for arguing that nonsense.
When it's amusing, I will laugh. There you go.
Well, just on my recent videos, videos I brought out in the past couple of weeks, one of the videos I brought out, I didn't give a correct distance to a ship, and I didn't refer to a curve calculator. And they don't understand why it didn't matter. They didn't understand the premise of the video, and they don't understand why I would never refer to a curve calculator again. They don't understand this. So I got a load of flack over not getting the correct distance right and not referring to the curve calculator. Like, why would I do that? You don't understand. It's over. You know what I mean? My video was literally a parody, a joke video, more than nothing else. Just discussing something that they used to be called our curve. That's what I was talking about. It was like, remember that thing we used to call our curve? Well, this is all it was, and blah, blah, blah. You know, it wasn't even a very serious video, and they couldn't understand. I was supposed to take this deadly serious and be, you know, doing all the calculations using the curve calculator. Why would I do that? Them days are over. There is no curve calculator that matches reality. It's nothing to do with reality.
That's a bit of the reality shock of being at the tip of the spear there, isn't it? Sometimes you stumble across people that are talking about gravity. You're like, what the hell's going on? Or they're talking about Earth curve calculators. And you're like, what the hell?
So I got an answer for John. I got an answer for John's video, and I was told to chew on this and come back when you could explain it. So I'm going to try and post it to Busters. I mean, Mr. B. I'll be back.
Hey, Nathan, I posted.
Guys, if you look on screen, they're in this transition phase, look. This is McToon. Building Lego Globe live. Disco ball. They've got to have these locally flat areas, look. This is they're getting there.
Yeah, they are.
They're getting closer to Cartesian.
I mean, look.
Oh, I thought that said building Lego Globe live, not live. My bad.
Right. Hey, who posted this? Celestial Air Navigation, presumably you, Brian.
No, that's me.
That's Ted.
I put that. Go on, Brian.
I posted something to Mr. B.
Actually, if Ted's going to talk about celestial air navigation, I'm just going to put this in quickly beforehand. I have people in my chat coming in with my more recent videos to do with the MiG-25 and the X-15 planes, saying that my calculations are all wrong, not realising that I copied the exact calculations from one of their Globe pilots. You know, it's like, no, them calculations are correct. I used the exact formulas, the exact process that was used by one of the pilots on the Globe side, one of the commercial pilots on the Globe side who I deal with. Them exact ones, and all these other people can do. It just shows what level of reason and intellect they have. They're just coming in attacking something without ever actually verifying where it came from or where the process originated.
Did they say where the calculation was wrong, Brian, or just a hand wave? Oh, your calculations are wrong.
Well, it's kind of just kind of a hand wave. One guy tried to make make the argument. The last fellow was, we measure things in degrees, not in degrees per second. Completely misunderstanding the degrees per second is a correction below horizontal that you would need to be dealing with as an accumulation if you were flying an aircraft around the globe Earth with following that altitude of a globe Earth with a radius of 3959 miles. But they don't, that's the best I've come across, Adam.
I posted that in Master B if you want to look at it.
So it sounds like, Brian, that they're doing the same thing to you as they did to me when they challenged all the resource material for the sextant research came from their books, and they're attacking it.
Yeah, my process. I just copied exactly what this other commercial pilot did when he was trying to correct Adam on something. Right? Now, that's a separate issue. But
you got that celestial air nav up on the screen, Nathan?
No, but I can. Yes, I have.
Okay, I posted this yesterday, but after the slides I showed, and since the topic of the day is this, in practice, the zenith distance, D or D, is not measured, but it's complement. The altitude angle is measured. So the elevation angle is measured, and the zenith distance is the complement. So you need a box for that, and you need that right triangle up in the sky. Zenith distance is determined by substituting the measured altitude in the equation. Zenith distance equals 90 degrees altitude. Now, last time we did angles, we showed that it's not an acute angle, it's not an obtuse angle, but it's 90 degrees, which can only be one thing, a right angle. They're stuck with it because all of their books say you subtract from 90. So no matter how much they fight about right angles, sorry, boys. Figure 15 shows the relationship between altitude and zenith distance. If the altitude angle H in figure 15 is 50 degrees, the zenith distance is 90 minus 50, or 40 degrees, which expressed in nautical miles is 2,400 miles. That would be your zenith distance, 40 times 60. The explanation of why, this is where everyone needs to pay attention. The explanation of why the sextant measures altitude instead of zenith distance lies in the fact that the early instrument makers quite logically designed their instruments to measure altitude because the instruments had to be leveled on the visible horizon. Flat baseline, not curved adjacent. There being no definite point which marks the observer's zenith. So what he's saying here is if you're on the boat, how do you know what your vertical is if it's tossing and turning? There's no marker for that. But if you tie it into the visible horizon and do dip correction, you're going to get your baseline and get your 90. So you got your zenith automatically once you do it. For uniformity of practice, artificial horizon instruments were built to measure the same coordinate. Though the gravity-operated mechanisms of these instruments indicate the vertical, the observer's zenith, as well as the horizontal. You see, that's why with the bubble sextant and the artificial horizon, you've already established horizontal. Especially, I mean, you've held the spirit level in your hand, you put it on the table, you know what that's telling you. And since everything is a right angle, then you've established your zenith. But not at sea, because you can't get your vertical at sea. You got to get your horizontal first. That's why you do dip correction. And that's why it's called sea level. This destroys them. The instrument is designed to work over flat surfaces. It cannot work on the curved adjacent. I'm done.
Right under his is what the guy answered for John's video. And I was told, chew on this, come back when you figure out what it is and how it hurts your cult claims. So here again, once a diagram. I don't even know what it is. Anybody else? It's a Master B.
I don't know, but can we get a comment on this first?
When someone comes along and says, here's a scrap of evidence, now go away and put it together into something that destroys your own claim, I go, no, I'm good, thanks. Maybe you'd like to put it into a devastating argument for me?
I just wanted to see if anybody knows what it is, because I don't. It's a bunch of lines and diagrams and words. It doesn't even explain anything.
Good morning, guys. Can you hear me?
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Hey, Chocolate.
Hey, Chocolate.
Yo, what's up? I'm having some microphone issues, so I won't be speaking much, but what's up? Good morning.
We got some whistling issues.
What'd you say?
Don't worry, Chocolate. Yeah, I've got it up, Adam. I did actually present it when Neil was suggesting we looked at it. Yeah, you need to make an actual claim. If you're the guy that sent this to Neil, it's like, okay. Oh, devastating. What's that? I haven't formulated this into a devastating argument against my own argument yet. All right. Yeah, that's what you have to do when you present this sort of thing. You have to turn it into an actual argument and then present the argument and then defend the argument and then take the teabagging when you lose the argument. That's what you have to do. Not just present some crap and say, you turn it into an argument for me.
I'll do that for him, though. They're all flat baselines. Where is the curvature in any of this?
And what is it? Riffle, wasn't it?
It looks like the top.
I'm answering him now.
The top is like a sectional piece of the bottom measurements. Like if you cross-sectional cut, claim of signal data being passed.
This.
Yeah, I think that's a cross-sectional strip of data being sent across like a broadband spectrum on the bottom.
Oh, so it's data. Oh, excuse me. That's it. I'm leaving the cult.
Who are the Brazilians?
Probably Brazil, if I had to guess.
Okay, then. So, yeah, that's a fail unless it actually comes out with a claim attached to it or a...
Correct.
Yeah. Need more cowbell.
Oh, no, they'll just say, look, the dummies can't figure it out.
Oh, my bad.
That's what that is.
That's devastating, yeah.
No, what's devastating is you cannot get an elevation angle on a curved surface. That's the devastating point.
It is. It'll be what we lead with for a while.
Well, all that transmitted data, I guess it's from a single collection point, but it was still using a flat baseline. And are they trying to assert curvature with flat baselines again or something?
Probably.
Who cares? He's got to make a claim. Make a claim and then come back. Can I go on a little bit of a rant? It'll only take me 30 seconds. Okay? I got into this argument around 2016, 2017. I joined this show during the lockdown. Okay? James Harlan and Rasta. And 10th Man is not a liar either. So I'm glad I'm living rent-free in your heads, but nobody here lies. All right? Checkoffs.
I saw you discussing this in yesterday's upload from the end of last week.
Look, I don't mind, but if you're going to call me a liar, that's going to piss me off, and then you're going to call 10th Man a liar, so I may not got the dates right. I don't know what show I came in. It was around 600, 700, big freaking deal.
It was very memorable.
Sharing their pain with you, Neil? Is that what you're
I think so. I think so. Well, if I'm lying, I'm using their material, so they're calling their material lies.
No. You're lying on when you came into the show. When you came on the show, you're lying about that. You're saying you've been here longer than you have.
Neil has been here for at least 1, probably 2 weeks minimum. Probably longer.
Chuck, I seen you write that. He says Neil's been here at least 5 or 6 months. Thanks, Nathan.
If that's the case, I could just say I've been here for a week and just don't pay attention to years ago when we were all on here.
Chocolate, the argument is so good against us that they can't talk about it except they talk about how long we've been on the show.
Like, this is what we're arguing about now?
No, I think
how long you've been on the show?
I think they're flat earthers, though. I don't think they're ballers. James Harlan and stopping traffic with my stupid Rasta hat.
Yeah, I was about to say, you ain't really going to get a globe argument out of that.
I know stopping traffic. He's been around for ages. I mean, like ever, Neil. I mean, long before you got here.
Oh, so what? Great.
Long before you got here.
Long before you got here.
No, I'm just funny.
Right, with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, smashed the PayPal link and all that good stuff. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. And this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering Stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!